Hey everybody, welcome to BFR Tuesday. My name is Ed LaCara. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, currently in my multidisciplinary clinic here in University Park, right by SMU. Okay, so today, what I'm going to talk about is something that I created as a quick start guide for people. So I gave you the link to download it up in the comment section. So feel free to click on that and then I'll share with you what that kind of looks like. I'm going to open it up and then I'll share my screen. Okay, so this is what the download is. It's about 17 pages. Let me just make sure everybody can still see me. Yeah, it looks like you can. Okay, great. So I was just recently had the honor of being on Dr. Mercola's video podcast. About 2 hours we chatted about BFR, and I will put a link to that in my on my replay down in the comment section of my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is at LaCara.com. If you would go there and subscribe, that would be great. That helps me out. But this is what you're going to get when you download it. Basically talking about the two different ways to occlude blood flow back to the working muscle. I highly recommend pneumatic cuffs, but I realize that a lot of people won't purchase those. So if you're not going to use a pneumatic cuff, meaning something that you're inflating, and I'll demonstrate and show an example. If you are using that, it is recommended to get a limb occlusion pressure. Limb occlusion pressure means how much pressure is required in order to fully occlude the blood flow into that working limb. Here are some general guidelines, whether you're there's a contraindication. Again, for further recommendations, if you're a healthy individual, it's probably okay to just get started. If you have some contraindications, I would either take a course from me or find a provider. I also did a YouTube channel update yesterday with how to find a provider that's been trained in my protocols. Here's the two areas that you need to find: radial pulse and posterior tibialis pulse. You put the cuffs on, and these are the locations where you put them: right at the upper leg and right below the deltoid. Here you can see me applying the cuff right below the deltoid in the upper extremity. This talks about how to go through and use the pulse in order to find your limb occlusion pressure. And I'll do an example of this for you. And then here's your lower extremity procedure. Okay. Either way, you need to find the pulse because you don't want to occlude the pulse fully, even if you're doing practical BFR. Here is pneumatic BFR. Here I'm applying a cuff and inflating the cuff to a certain pressure. And then after that pressure has been established, then you can decrease it. In the lower extremity, we use 80% limb occlusion pressure. In the upper extremity, we use 50% limb occlusion pressure. Never exceed an 8 out of 10 discomfort level. And you can just see me going through and how to apply these things. And then just a summary. Here's the Doppler that I recommend and use. These are pretty cheap. These are $125, I think. You can utilize this to know when your limb occlusion pressure has been met. So you can see me here utilizing this on her, finding her upper extremity pressure. And then you can calculate what pressures to use during exercise. So if the person has 160 millimeter mercury LOP, 50% is 80, 80% is 128. So this is what we would use in the upper extremity. This is what we would use in the lower extremity. Here I'm taking you through how to do limb occlusion pressure in the lower extremity. And then exercise examples. So how to figure out what type of weight to use. In healthy individuals, what I would do is do some examples, like here, exercise 1, straight leg calf raise on a leg press. You can, you would do 30 reps, then rest 30 seconds, 15 reps, 30 seconds, 15 reps, rest 30 seconds, 15 reps, then deflate the cuffs and move on to exercise 2. You can do that for any exercise. And I gave you some examples of lower body exercises and upper body exercises here. So, pretty good little cheat sheet. Here is our BFR worksheet. Like if you're needing to calculate how to find your 1 rep max, like here's a good way to do it. You can do it based on a 5 rep max or a 3 rep max. You don't need to take all the way to 1 rep max. You would take a percentage of that. So if I did that 200-pound bench press 5 times, then I would say, okay, well, that's 1.15 times 200, which would be 230 pounds. That's my estimated 1 rep max. Then I would take 20% of that, so 46 pounds, and I would use that as my starting point for training. So this is my masterclass quick start guide. If you want to download that, you can give that a good read. Okay, so kind of just a general overview. I've been getting a ton of questions on how do I get started. After the Dr. Mercola interview, a lot of people that are not medical clinicians found the information and have been listening to the information, are very interested. That these were not designed for the general public. They're safe to use with the general public as long as you know what you're doing. We will be coming out with a new cuff in middle 2020, which will auto-regulate, so it'll auto-inflate. Don't worry if you already have cuffs, the pump will work with the current cuffs as well. So we're just going to try to make it easier for people to use without having to use the Doppler and being able to basically self-inflate. You'll be able to just plug in what pressure to use, whether it's upper extremity or lower extremity. It'll automatically find your limb occlusion pressure and then decrease the cuff. So that's it for today. I just wanted to make this kind of short and simple. I also wanted to kind of create a video about that quick start guide in case anybody's interested to read more. Does anybody have any general questions for me? Doesn't have to be about this, can be about anything. I'm happy to answer. If you just type your question into the chat, then I can answer it. All right, no questions. All right, sounds good. Well, anytime you want to reach out to me, I am ed@edlecara.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Otherwise, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And how you applied in injuries. Well, Diego, you do it the same way. You find the pressures, and then you'll exercise the injured tissue. So what area are you looking for specifically? Lower limb. Okay, so like a knee, ankle. Yeah, okay. So you basically do the same thing. Whatever exercises that you could currently do with the injured limb, you basically do the same thing. You do 60 to 80% limb occlusion pressure, and then you would do whatever light exercises you would normally do for that injured area. So let's say you're working a hamstring strain. I would use the cuffs, and then I might do like very light hamstring curls, and I would do the same reps and sets, 30, 15, 15, 15, 30-second rest in between. The key to this is it's going to fatigue the tissue very early, and so you get the benefits of high intensity exercise, which are only doing low intensity exercise, so you don't injure the tissue. As long as you don't go to failure, you're not causing more damage to the tissue. So you can take an injured limb and you can start to do exercises. I wouldn't change the exercises that you're currently doing for whatever injury you're treating. You just are using the light loads like you normally would, whether that's body weight or it's TheraBand or resistance tubing, and you're adding the cuffs that allows you to mimic high intensity exercise. If you're really interested in learning more about the rehab process, on December 14th, I am doing a live stream. So it's a worldwide live stream. I'm teaching my live course for Smart Cuffs Level 1 BFR. You can tap into that live stream and you can watch my course live, ask questions. You'll get, live demonstrations. You'll get all that. And that's, let me see if I can find that link. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Too many links to keep track of nowadays. So that link right there will give you all the information about my live stream course. And yeah, jump in. You can watch me, ask questions, but it's the same course that we do. The reason I did this was because we were getting a lot of requests for classes and certifications in areas that just kind of don't make sense for us to go to, small areas in the United States that are not near major cities, major airports, and we would only get a couple people there to the course, and it's very time consuming and costly to do that. So instead, we're live streaming some of these courses so that you can partake. How do you use it after training, like elite football players, to accelerate process? For performance, we do very similar. We'll let them do their normal training, and then I would put the cuffs on. And if you're trying to train more, get stronger, then you would do whatever exercises you wanted to train with. For recovery, I do what's called a cellular swelling protocol. And that cellular swelling protocol is just putting the cuffs on, keeping them on for 5 minutes, resting for 3 minutes, and then alternating that times 5. And what that's been shown is to improve protein synthesis. So to help with regeneration of any damaged tissue that you get with exercise-induced muscle damage. I'll be putting out a performance course hopefully in the next couple months. I have to finish the updates for our level 1 course, and then I'll be doing that, and got a bunch of stuff that I'm doing. Any other questions today? All right, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to get to my patient load. I will see you next week. If you have any specific questions that you'd like me to cover in more detail, feel free to email me. I love recommendations because then I know kind of what to talk about, because sometimes I get lost in what do people want to hear. So thank you guys so much, and be well.